I'm happy to introduce Past District Governor Sue Goldsen and Past District Governor Bruce Goldsen and Kevin Kelly. Sue is from the Global E Club. Bruce is Adrian Noon, and Kevin is from Northville. Sue and Bruce are also working on creating the Passport Service Club. Sue's a District Foundation fundraising chair. Bruce is the District Annual Programs chair. And Kevin works for the Rotary Foundation. He's the Regional Major Gifts Officer, so we're really happy to have him in our district. So with that introduction, Sue and Bruce and Kevin, the show is yours. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, Rick, and we are certainly thrilled to be a part of this presentation because the foundation really is the foundation of our organization, if you will, and the fact that we do so much good in the world, that all happens because of the Rotary Foundation, which is of course the charitable arm of Rotary International. So for, if you've never seen the mission statement of the Rotary Foundation before, the Rotary Foundation is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. And I think something that we should all be really, really proud of is that the Rotary Foundation really does an excellent job. And when you look at Charity Navigator, which is a rating service of charitable organizations, the Rotary Foundation has received the highest ranking of 4 stars for 12 consecutive years. So that means all the hard work we do in raising money for the foundation, we have great stewards of that money, and it is spent wisely and carefully, and Rotary does really great evaluation and follow through. And of course, we've been recognized for that through the Charity Navigator rating. So you can support the Rotary Foundation in really 3 main funds. And the first fund, of course, is the Polio Plus Fund, which has been our signature project for so many years. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more in depth. The other fund, of course, is our annual fund, which is the fund that helps to support Rotary's work that we do today and now. And then, of course, the Endowment Fund, which is there to support the work that Rotary will do in the future. So it's our long-term plan, if you will. As I said before, we have, we work a lot on polio, but one of the other great things is our partnerships that we have, and definitely through the global polio eradication effort and other projects that we work on in the health area, we have some great partners that we have worked with, and they are the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, of course, that we all hear about so often, and the great support that we get from them, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and of course, Rotary International itself. Equally as important to what we do is the support that we get from the governments around the world. And the governments have helped us in various donor stuff, polio affected in high-risk countries, of course. Without their support and leadership for us to carry out projects like our immunization efforts and so on would be so difficult. So many of these high-risk countries remain as high priorities for us in our polio eradication efforts. So as you can see this next slide, we have been immunizing more than 450 million children in up to 60 different countries every year. That's huge. What an amazing job. Funding for over 150,000 polio workers, which goes out to like 70 different countries each year. And we are continuing to constantly look at disease surveillance activities in more than 70 countries as well. So some of our polio milestones, polio cases, which is amazing, have been reduced by almost 99%. Truly, we are this close to eradicating polio. 18 million people either walking or alive because of the incredible efforts that Rotary and all of its partners and volunteers have done in the polio eradication effort. 4 of 6 worldwide health regions are certified polio-free. And that, again, is due to the amazing work that everybody has been doing. The type 2 type of polio certified eradicated in 2015. Type 3 certified eradicated in 2019. There have been no cases of polio in African regions since 2016. And that includes, of course, Nigeria. And African certification, we're hoping for mid-2020 that will happen. Only 2 countries have reported wild polio virus since September of 16, and that's Afghanistan and Pakistan. Now, it's one thing I need to note here, and why that whole goal of mid-2020, I kind of took a little bit of a hesitant pause, is because of what's going on right now with COVID-19. Rotary itself has had to put a 6-month hold on conducting any immunizations. So hopefully we will be able to jump back into the great work that we've been doing soon, as we all follow the world events on COVID, and as things calm down, hopefully we'll be able to jump right back into that.
So once again, my name is Kevin Kelly, and I work for the Rotary Foundation, but also I live here in Metro Detroit area and a member of the Rotary Club of Northville. But I wanted to mention real quickly just about the polio before I get into it. So sorry for going off script already here, Bruce and Sue. But when it comes to polio and the fact that we put a 6-month hold, just wanted to add a quick point. That doesn't mean that we're not involved in per se of what's happening right now with COVID-19. If you saw our world partners that we're involved with when it comes to the World Health Organization, CDC, UNICEF, we have such a proven track record of how to attack polio. And when there's a breakout that takes place in a community, we know how to really put a firm grip on that community to make sure that it doesn't spread outside of that community when it comes to polio. So it's no secret that we'd be highly involved in with COVID-19 across the world as well. So our partners are asking for our assistance to play a role in COVID-19, and it's also, I'm sure that many of you know, is the fact that we have also been raising a lot of money in grants for COVID-19. Our district alone has received a contribution from the Rotary Foundation to the tune of $25,000 to help support COVID-19. As a matter of fact, the Rotary Foundation has turned around and given over $13 million up to this point for just COVID-19. So I just wanted to add a point of that real quickly. So what my primary role is that I work with our Rotarians across Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and of course Southwest Ontario when it comes to some of our clubs that are across the border. And I really focus on meeting the needs of our Rotarians, of what their philanthropic needs may be. And one of those areas that may be is the annual fund. So primarily what the annual fund is in a simple term, it's the Rotary Foundation's checking account. Our anticipation every single year is to zero out that annual fund because it's going to be going all to Rotary. It's going to be going to Rotary grants and programs. And every single year, and what I'll try to explain the best of my ability is very confusing, is our share system. But the contributions that we raise here in our district, 6,400, go to the Rotary Foundation, and some of it comes back in the form of district designated funds, or DDF, as a lot of our seasoned pros in grants and in the Rotary Foundation are well aware of. And I'll try to explain the best of my ability. But if you can remember one thing, it's the fact that there's not too many organizations that I know of that when you give money to a nonprofit that you're going to see some of that money come back to be able to utilize. So contributions, of course, when you give to the Rotary Foundation via online, via through your club, as long as your Rotary ID is with that contribution, your club is also going to be receiving credit, as well as you as an individual when you give to the annual fund. So I'll try to explain a little bit further in the presentation of just how that looks when it comes to annual funds. So So this is quickly what I said when it comes to annual fund, and we'll just use it applies to our endowment fund as well, but we'll just use the annual fund as keep it simple. So say say we've got I think I saw Tracy Sincock on here. Let's say Tracy Sincock wanted to give to the Rotary Foundation. She wanted to give to our annual fund, and let's say this year she had a great year, and she wanted to give a sizable contribution. Let's say she wanted to give $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation to our annual fund share. So how that works, if you give in 2020, you're going to give to the annual fund. And the Rotary Foundation is going to keep that investment, more per se, for over 3 years. All the contributions that come from District 6400, all of our, I think, what do we have, 1,600 members that we have in our district, all those contributions that come in 2019 and 20 for our fiscal year, in 3-year time, we're going to get half of that back to our district to be able to use in what we call district designated funds. And the other half goes to what we call our world fund. So all of our projects that take place across the world when it comes to global grants, district grants, and so forth outside of our District 6400. So it's a very unique system. It's very difficult to understand in just 5 minutes that we're presenting here, but it's one that's very unique, but also one that we can be very proud of by the fact that that the money comes back to our district to be able to utilize in the form of grants as well as global grants. So let's go on to the next slide here, Bruce. And please ask questions when we're done. We're going to have plenty of time to be able to ask questions as well. So here's a brief, quick little example of how that looks like if we gave funds back in 2016 and 17, that this is the year that we're utilizing that in this fiscal year, that our district is using it for global grants and district grants. And any money that we don't use gets moved forward for that next year as well. And so our grants team, as well as our district foundation chair, Rick Caron, can explain more in detail when it comes to just dollars and cents if you have questions about how it applies to our district. But this happens in our 536 districts across the world, and it's one that I can thankfully really tout our district here of 6,400. I work with 20 different districts in the Midwest and New York, and our district, not to toot our own horn, but we are by far an overachiever. We are the #1 district of the 20 districts that I work with in the form of just understanding how the Rotary Foundation works. Thanks to it, see that? I'm just being honest. We understand how the foundation works. We use it to our true advantage, and our clubs really take advantage of having significant grants that they get to utilize on a yearly basis as a result of contributions that come into the Rotary Foundation. So just to toot our own horn a bit. So moving on to the next one here. So what's really great about the Rotary Foundation is just the fact that there's no doubt that it improves the member experience when it comes to the club level and the district level. And once again, our district is a bit unique because I really feel like our district, you get to see it in action much more than other districts around. Me as an individual, once again, let's use Tracy Sincock. She's a fellow member of mine in the Rotary Club of Northville. We may have a group of together, like a 5, that work together on a particular project that we have within our own community here in Northville and beyond, that we get to utilize a grant that we've received from our district, be able to make an impact here in a community. And as well as just the fact that we may go on a trip somewhere, and we may go to India, we may go on an immunization trip, we're immunizing children. We may see something that shakes our tree a bit, of saying, wow, I can't believe that this area of India is in need of X, and we can come back to our district or come back to our club and say, you know, maybe we should look at having an impact in Ghana. Maybe we should look at having an impact elsewhere in Africa that our district has been involved with. The fact that the Rotary Foundation can make an impact here in our own community, but also work with other Rotary clubs around the world on making an impact in an area that is in great need as well, is one of the ways that you can really, really improve yourself as a member, as a Rotarian. And it's one that I feel very proud of. When I am on the front line trying to raise funds for the Rotary Foundation, I feel very confident in what I am presenting to our Rotarians, that that you're going to change. You could essentially change your life, and I'm certain that we have plenty of people in our district that would get teary-eyed talking about how much their life has been changed because of their involvement within the Rotary Foundation, and as well as being a Rotarian. So I'm very proud of just the fact that our experience gets impacted by the Rotary Foundation 100%. Next slide, Bruce. Coming, here we go. The anticipation. So there's, of course, if you're interested in supporting the Rotary Foundation, we happily accept cash, as you'd anticipate. That's the easiest way to contribute to the Rotary Foundation. And all those different areas as well. When it comes to checks and credit cards, you can go online. The Rotary Direct is one that that a lot of our Rotarians take advantage of. Probably our newer Rotarians, it's a great way to start giving to the Rotary Foundation, because that is on a monthly basis off your credit card. You can start giving on $10 a month, or if whatever you're comfortable with on doing so. You can give actually a pledge to the Rotary Foundation. We recognize any gift of over $10,000, if you wanted to do it over a 3-year time frame. We recognize individuals that are interested in doing that. I have set up countless number of pledges on. In a lot of cases, maybe a Rotarian has a goal in mind to get to major donor status or another major donor status. Or years ago, many of people that are on this call, we worked on $1 million dinner that we called it. And we tried to raise $1 million in a night over actually it was over a 12-month time frame. But a lot of individuals in the district took advantage of setting up a pledge. We happily accept appreciated stocks as well. It's a pretty easy process that I work with a lot of Rotarians on doing so. Probably one that is the most talked about opportunity to give is those individuals that are over 70 and a half over here in the States have a chance to give. They have to give a required minimum distribution off of their IRA. They have to accept that. There are opportunities where Rotarians would rather use this as their charitable intent, and you can do what's called a charity rollover. There's some good tax benefits on doing a charity rollover to your charity of choice, namely the Rotary Foundation. So I talk about that as well. So, and of course, donor advised funds, and there's even way more complicated gift opportunities that Rotarians can take advantage of. By just the fact that we are a large foundation and we do have a lot of opportunities that Rotarians can take advantage of. But I have many conversations with a lot of our Rotarians. But I think the one great thing about the Rotary Foundation is that I don't typically try to steer a Rotarian towards a particular area that is maybe of interest to me, or maybe my superiors. Maybe our General Secretary, John Hugo, has said, this is Water and Sanitation Month, only fundraise for water and sanitation. That's not the case. That's never been the case with the Rotary Foundation. And I think that's one of the great ways that we can help just build a true partnership between our Rotarians and the Rotary Foundation, because there's so many ways to support the foundation. You can support, of course, through the annual fund, as I mentioned, but in these 6 areas, and they're pretty broad, as you can see, these 6 areas of focus, but these are where our grants come out of. Our global grants are very large grants that take place. And so these conversations will come up within a Rotarian that says, you know, I was a teacher for all my life. Basic education and literacy is really important to me. I would like to leave an estate gift to basic education and literacy. Can we set up something that is a way that it's going to continually grow over time, but also make an impact in basic education and literacy, and making me feel comfortable that we're going to see grants that come out of that on a yearly term. And yes, I can, and thankfully, work with our Rotarians to help set up what their philanthropic dreams are when it comes to an estate gift or a gift of today in these 6 areas of focus. So as I said, they're very broad, but we can really narrow in specifics depending on the gift size. I'll just use one other story before I pass it off to Bruce. I had an individual that was in Western Pennsylvania in a very comfortable position that was interested in making a gift to the foundation in the form of a 7-figure gift. And he wanted it to go towards, he was an ophthalmologist, and when he traveled to India, western part of India, they had a high issue of glaucoma, and he was involved in building a hospital there to help eye doctors that are in that particular area, but also particularly in the area of glaucoma. And so by the fact that we were talking about a 7-figure gift, there's a lot of flexibility to be that specific. If he's interested in having it go towards one area of the world, we have Rotary clubs that are there. We have a district that's there, and we could meet his needs of being an eye doctor and focusing on just glaucoma, because we're talking about a larger gift. So long story short, there's so many opportunities when it comes to Rotarians of what their philanthropic needs are and how to make those happen. Our job as a district and district leaders is to help bridge that gap between our Rotarians and what opportunities are there. And sometimes it's hard for us to paint that picture. And our job as a foundation committee is to help give you those tools to paint your own picture, but also as a district to paint pictures that our Rotarians can understand and take advantage of and make their own. So that's my spiel, Bruce. I'm taking the baton and passing it to you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin. And of course, that doctor could clearly see the need for that existed, and that's why he gave.
Absolutely.
I did that one for Rick Caron, by the way. Moving on, we've talked about some of the ways that your club members can give and traditionally do give through the annual fund of the foundation. But the other opportunity that the Rotary Foundation has for you is in the Endowment Fund. And this is a fund that a lot of people don't truly understand, and it kind of what Kevin was just talking about, those large gifts and how they can be provided to people. So when we talk about the Endowment Fund, how does the Endowment Fund work? Well, it's very simple. Like in most endowed funds, the gifts are invested. So rather than the annual fund where you give your money and then 3 years later the money is spent, the Rotary Foundation invests the money that's donated to the Endowment Fund, and it's the earnings that are generated from that investment that are then spent over the next several years. You can personalize your gift with the Endowment Fund, and there's long-term benefit from having that. So here's an example of how your gift is put to work through the Rotary Foundation's Endowment Fund. As with the annual funds, there are numbers of ways to designate the gift, like the ophthalmologist that Kevin just talked about. Now, earnings from the gifts to the Endowment Fund through the share program are split, just like they are with the annual fund's share program that Kevin talked about. Half of them go to the World Fund and half of them go back to the district in terms of district designated funds, or DDF, that are returned to our district. Now, the difference is with the annual fund and the endowment fund on that share money is that with the annual fund, the DDF portion of the gift is applied one time. So if you give $1,000 to the annual fund, 500 of it is used for the World Fund of Rotary's Foundation, and then the other half comes back in terms of DDF to the district. With the endowment fund, the earnings of the gift are split each year. So the yearly DDF amount may be smaller, but the DDF will continue to be given to the district every year as long as the Rotary Foundation exists. That's the big difference. That $1,000 split in half on the annual fund, the earnings from the $1,000 split in half from the endowment fund. It's kind of like being a Paul Harris Society member forever. Donors may also choose to designate their endowment fund earnings to the World Fund. And when you do that and give it to the World Fund, then the trustees of the Rotary Foundation choose how to spend it. And I'll give you one quick reason why you might consider giving earmarking that money for the endowment fund to the World Fund instead of to the share fund. When you have a situation like COVID-19, you'll notice that we just had all that money come back in terms of in the ways they came back to us through grants to districts. Money was spent on a global basis for COVID-19 relief. That was a decision that the trustees of the Rotary Foundation made, and they had to use World Fund money to do that. The more money available to them, the more they can react to global events that are unforeseen, like obviously COVID-19. There are also options with the Endowment Fund that you can designate it to go to Rotary Peace Centers or to the areas of focus, those 6 areas of focus that Kevin just talked about a moment ago. So it's your legacy and it's Rotary's promise. When you give to the endowment, or your members do, you can watch the value of that gift grow and investment earnings continue to improve communities in perpetuity, really. So here's an example of how your gift will grow. In April of 2016, the foundation set a goal of raising the endowment to $1 billion in net assets. Those are funds that are invested, and $1.025 billion in commitments for future gifts. That totals $2.025 billion in outright gifts and commitments by the year 2025. So there's your 2025 by 2025. Spendable earnings, by the way, in 2018 were approximately $15.5 million from the net assets, and that money was the money that was came from investment earnings to do good in the world. So how do you give? Well, these planned commitments can be paid later on. Number one, you could name Rotary in a will or living trust. This is what we encourage through the benefactor program and the Bequest Society program. You could, as Kevin mentioned, make a beneficiary designation in your retirement plan, or your life insurance policy could make Rotary Foundation be the beneficiary. You could set up a donor advised fund with the Rotary Foundation for future disbursements to Rotary. That's where you get to decide how that money is going to be spent. One example of a donor advised fund that we have is the water fund that past Rotary Vice President Jennifer Jones, current trustee of the foundation, and her husband Nick created when they became Arch Clump Society members a few years ago. And you could establish a charitable gift annuity or a charitable remainder trust. And you should sit down with your estate planner to kind of go over which makes the most sense for you. Most importantly, the Rotary Foundation and you through your clubs with your members have to say thank you. And there are numerous ways that we do that with what we call recognition. So I think everybody knows about the Paul Harris Fellow recognition and the Paul Harris Society recognition programs. Paul Harris Fellows, when they attain $1,000 in contributions, they become a Paul Harris Fellow. We encourage people to become multiple Paul Harris Fellows. And then if they make a $1,000 a year commitment pledge, they become a member of the Paul Harris Society. Then the next ways that you can do that are through, as I mentioned, the Bequest Society, where you agree to put at least $10,000 in your will to Rotary International. The Major Donor Program, where you make a gift of at least $10,000 to the annual fund or the endowment fund in cash. And then there are multiple levels of major donors, 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, and so on. And then the ultimate, the Arch Clump Society, which is $250,000 or more in giving to the Rotary Foundation. And it can be in a number of different forms, that giving, but it has to accumulate to at least $250,000. This year's goals for your clubs, letters have been sent to each one of the Rotary Foundation chairs in each club and the club president as well. The annual fund money that's contributed in this year, 2019-20, is invested for 3 years, and then 3 years from now, all of the money raised this year is spent. So in Tracy Sincock's year as district governor of District 6400, the money we raise this year is what we have to spend to do good in the world through the annual fund. So we've got about another month. COVID-19 has slowed down the way that the money is accumulated by Rotary International and the foundation, but it hasn't stopped it. But it just takes a little bit more time, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong on this, as long as you send money to the lockbox in Chicago and not to the address in Evanston for the Rotary building, then the money will be, in short order, will be deposited to the foundation. And I think
that's correct.
the
That
safest way
address
to
that
do
you're
it.
looking for is on that. Yeah, that on your giving form, you'll see that lockbox address down there. But you know, right now, one Rotary Center has still been closed, and so mail being sent to 1560 Sherman Avenue hasn't been picked up. So
Yeah,
But
and I just,
everyone can make, oh, sorry,
go
everyone
ahead.
can make direct deposits to Rotary International using their credit card and online donations.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Fastest way.
we just want to make sure that just because clubs are not being able to meet in person right now, that in your Zoom meetings, in your correspondence with clubs, that you're still, talking about the foundation and trying as hard as you can to reach the goals that we set forth for this year, so that we have a successful year of opportunities for grants and stuff with DDF that we'll earn during District Governor nominee designate Tracy's year as governor. So we have a lot of resources in the district and a lot of people who can help you. Rick Caron is our DRFC, which is the chair of the District Rotary Foundation Committee. And we have a strong committee of volunteers. Russ Jones oversees grants. I'm the fundraising chair and have a committee of wonderful people who work with me. And Bill Jasmine is a grant officer, Dave Carpenter on polio, Phyllis Charbonneau is our endowment chair, Paul Harris Society chairs, Tim Joy, our stewardship officers, Roberto Sanchez. And the reason I bring these names up is because we're throwing a lot at you today. And if this is an area that you feel a good program would be a smart thing to do at your club, certainly inviting any of these people to speak. And we can do it even virtually right now. I mean, these virtual meetings have really proven to be great ways to communicate with members and to share information and to do training. Rotary itself has amazing resources as far as videos go and presentations. Even this PowerPoint is something that there are many, many kinds like this that could be used to do programs on the Rotary Foundation at your club meetings to help educate people. The Rotary Foundation has annual reports and foundation facts and reference guides and ideas on fundraising, and of course, all the forms that you need for donations for whether it's a multi-donor form, if you are a club president or foundation chair who's going to put all the donations received through the club in people's names and submit it. People individually can have forms. You can also look up your club recognition summary report online. If you go through My Rotary and you use your username and password, as long as you're a foundation chair or a president, you should have access. But if you can't get in for some reason or having problems, if you emailed me or you emailed Rick, we would be happy to get that information to you as well.
Kevin?
What are we doing here, Bruce? Just
The Rotary Foundation resources as well as up here, and Rotary staff.
Yeah. Kevin's name on it.
There's so many resources that are available. As Sue had mentioned, we threw a lot at you. But probably by the time you're about wrapped up with your president year, that's when you'll get it and then not be. But there's so much to learn and there's so much to be able to take advantage of. And there's a lot of resources that are here. And as well as I'd be happy to help in any way as a staff member to call me anytime. If we are able to visit in the near future, I'm happy to visit too. I'd love to visit your clubs too. It's easy for me to get around. As well, but there's a lot of resources, and just to highlight, and I think we're going to show it here before we pass it off for some folks that are in our chat here as well to mention a few words. But just even if it's grabbing a video that we have and showing it at the beginning of your meetings, we have a lot of really great videos that have been used over the years that can easily explain the Rotary Foundation in a better way than even a presentation like this can do. We just have a lot of good resources to use. And so in November, when we have Foundation Month, I'd highly encourage you just to grab a video and show that before your meetings. And it'll be a great picture of how the Rotary Foundation operates. So with that, do we want to show the video, Bruce and Sue, and then have a few guests mention a few words?
Sure, and I would just say one more thing on the videos. I mean, even right now, as you're trying to wrap up your foundation giving and goals for the year, to send out maybe a video and a link as you ask members to think about getting their donations in online or however you do it at your club. It might be a great way to, because as a famous Rotarian in our district has said, it's not about the money, but it's about what the money can do.
And the other thing you can do is if you're having Zoom meetings, which a lot of our clubs are,
there we go. Show a video. I mean, it's a great way to have a nice program in a meeting. So with that, we're going to show you an example of one of the great videos that Rotary International has. Boy, there were some people in there I recognized.
Yeah, Kathy Kane was in there. Saw her.
So anybody have any questions that between the three of us we might be able to answer, and we'll take a look at the, Kathy noticed there was her and her son. So there's some comments here that I'll let Bruce and Kevin look at.
All right, well, Russ wants to point out, Russ Jones, our grants chair, over $4 million went out as disaster response grants for the pandemic, and there was no local match required for that. We received the maximum $25,000 for that disaster response grant. And not only that, but Rotary has been, and the foundation have been very responsive in the past years when the Bahamas had the disastrous hurricane that decimated the Abaco Islands. We had a disaster response fund that responded to that in a big way. Rick, Caron, I believe you have something you'd like to add?
I do. This is for Kevin. So when I was in the club trying to think about what I do to get the big donors to come forward, I found it a bit daunting. Not being a wealthy person myself, I thought, well, how do I get around and ask someone to give 10 or 20 or 25 or even $125 or $250,000? And so I'd like maybe if you could say something about how long that process is. I get the idea that you just don't walk up to someone and say, hey, how about giving $25,000 to the Rotary Foundation? What's the whole process look like?
Yeah, it's there's a bit of a science behind it as well, as you'd imagine. Me personally, well, I will tell you in two senses. One, I've been in this environment for fundraising environment for 13, 14 years. And Rotary is a completely different animal, and it's a great animal. It's one that is one like our dogs and our cats. I've never used that analogy. I probably won't use that again. Sorry, but it's difficult in a lot of ways to raise major gifts for a nonprofit. But in the Rotary Foundation, in the Rotary in general, by just the fact that we meet on a weekly basis, by the fact that we are entrenched in what's happening with our community, many more times when I travel to a particular area for the first time, I will reach out to somebody that's been very gracious over the years to the Rotary Foundation, just to meet with them and just to have a coffee with them, just to break bread with them, just to find out what is it about the foundation of why you've given over $10,000. And in a lot of ways, they may want to talk about future gifts that they were considering, and now is the time because I am in town. But quite honestly, Rick, it's because I just sit with our Rotarians and hear their stories. We are very unique. That's not how typically it takes time to build relationships with individuals. And our Rotarians are very eager to share their stories. And so my lesson, I guess, to pass along is that we should take time as members within our club just to reach out to our members and ask why they're so supportive of the foundation. If we are in a position that we haven't experienced what they've experienced yet, because I think a lot of us will get inspired by the work that our Rotarians have done within our club. So that's a little bit of a way that I raise funds for the foundation.
And Kevin, if I could follow up a little bit with
is that. Go ahead.
No, there's a delay. Sorry. Following up with what Rick was saying, if you're a member of a club or you're a club president or foundation chair who might kind of think that maybe there's somebody who has the means and you don't really know how to do it yourself, could you or someone at Rotary International help with cultivation like that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would love to be able to do that. There is, you know, in a sense, a comfort level that some of us may have and some of us don't have on having these very significant conversations with a Rotarian. So, you know, I'm not asking you to, and we're not, you know, putting our Rotarians in a position that we should now start asking for significant gifts with our Rotarians. But if you just mentioned, hey, did you know there's a resource here in town that we have that you could possibly talk to about? Would you like to learn more about the Rotary Foundation? And if they usually say yes, then we have. Then, you know, I'm happy to take it from there if there's individuals. And quite honestly, well, there's so many different, I guess, stories that I could pass along. But I guess one thing that I'll throw out there that may be a little bit easier is if we're aware that we have somebody in our club that has the Rotary Foundation named in their estate plans, and yet we haven't been able to recognize that individual for that gracious thought to leave the Rotary Foundation their estate plans. My sole purpose is to make sure that we know exactly what that Rotarian wants done with their estate gift. If they're a little bit shy and don't want anybody to know, that's fine, and we can keep them anonymous. But if we receive a gift after their demise and perhaps they were really passionate about water and sanitation at the peace centers and wanted it to come back in the form of share like we talked about, if we don't have anything on record, then it goes to a world fund, which once again is still going to do great work, but that might not have been the intention of that Rotarian. And so it's really important if we know that there's somebody in the club that is probably considering the foundation, their estate plans, that we just have a conversation with them, or me personally, just to make sure we know exactly what they want done with that gift when it's received. Just the one thing to throw out there.
We're very lucky that we have Kevin. We have Kevin in our district now as both a Rotarian, but also as the major gifts officer for the Rotary Foundation, so that he's an easy to tap resource to reach out to people. And if you know people in your club who might be somebody to reach out to, and Tracy's given the thumbs up on that. So she's lucky she has him in her club too. But if you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, just unmute yourself and we'll recognize you. Tracy, did you want to add something since we mentioned you a few times this evening?
No, I've been here. I made a donation. Well, I just texted Kevin. I made a donation tonight while I was watching I thought it was an appropriate time to make a donation, and I'm just took a picture, and I'm going to share this to my club page and remind everybody in my club anyway what a great resource we have in the district and in all of you that are so passionate about Rotary. So thank you
Thank you.
all.
Thank you,
I'd like
Tracy.
to add an anecdote about the importance not of just recognizing the people that give so that they have the recognition, but on the fact that this recognition that you give somebody becomes an example for other people inside the club. And I remember as a young Rotarian, someone was given the crystal for giving $10,000 to become a major donor. And my thought at the time was, oh my God, who can give $10,000 to anything? I mean, who are these people? And then you start to realize that little bit that you put aside every month and every paycheck starts to build and build. And the next thing you know, I'm a couple $100 from a Paul Harris. Let me just work hard to get that in there. The next thing you know, like, I'm almost a major donor myself. And so we need to give the examples to other people that these are achievable goals and that everyone can be part of the foundation. And we all like to be part of the same club. So if people in my club are Paul Harris Society or Paul Harris Fellows, why am I not a Paul Harris Fellow?
Right.
And so these recognitions play such a key role in so many ways. Today, maybe next month, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, we don't know when it's going to kick in. As a teacher, I know all the time. I have students, and you find out 30 years later the big impact it had on their life because of 5 minutes you spent with them. You just don't know when things are going to kick in. So you have to keep planting the seeds, keep talking about it, keep giving the recognitions, keep talking about the foundation, and eventually people will be in a position where they can contribute as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rick. Bill Jasmine, who's another member of the District Rotary Foundation Committee, has a question or comment.
Just want to verbally thank Kevin Kelly, who helped me after my wife passed, for making a share endowment gift to the foundation. So there's a little bit of a share endowment started already because of our major gift.
Well, thank you, Bill.
That's
Thanks.
great.
I didn't mean to have this come back to me, so, but I thank you, Bill. That's really great. That's really great. Sue, can I take a second real fast here? One of my favorite parts about, as I mentioned, that I get when I get to travel is to get to hear stories from individuals, especially here in our district. And one of those is our incoming district governor, Noel Jackson. A few years ago, when I first met Noel, he was pretty passionate about who made a difference in his life, and that was Chuck Howey. And that was really great to hear how Chuck had such an impact, not only in his club and so many different members that are in his club, but it really inspired him to, as he said, step up his contributions to the foundation. And Noel did so exponentially, him and his wife. They're now Arch Clump Society members within the Rotary Foundation. But I know I wanted Noel to say a few words too, but also thank you for the commitment to the Rotary Foundation. And I just loved your story of how Chuck really inspired you to be a better Rotarian as well.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. That's the perfect segue into the things that I've been thinking about here. The foundation to me represents a lot of work that a lot of people have done to create such a strong foundation for our organization. I didn't have to do all that work. I get to get the fruits and the byproducts of all of that work that they put into that. And, I go back, there's so many things that inspire you, but when I was a little kid, I heard about like a humanitarian, and I thought, wow, Mom, what's that all about? And I heard about Albert Schweitzer and all the things he was doing. And I was thinking, like, wow, who does that kind of stuff where they go and help people in foreign lands and so forth? And then I heard about philanthropists, and I thought, I used to go around looking for pop bottles so that I could get a couple of pennies to go to the candy store. And I thought, who would give away money to somebody else? For what reason? And then my mom explained to me, those are philanthropists. So we all have the opportunity in a very strong way to be humanitarians and philanthropists. And, it starts out with, working towards your Paul Harris. And then after that, I got up to, I was given $1,000 a year, and I kept joking every time I'd put the $1,000 in. I'd heard about Chuck Howey being a Arch Clump Society member. And I said, what's that all about? And I kept saying, my joke was, when I grow up, I want to be just like Chuck. And after a number of years, I'm like, am I grown up yet or not? And so, I talked to Kevin, and I had to figure that out. And, in a very real way, I've got a piece of the rock. I get to be part of what's going on. Now, part of my money is in the share program. So forever, there's money going to be coming back to the district. So I feel kind of good about that. That's kind of like a little legacy with Debbie and I being able to make sure that some money anyway comes back to the district. We put some money into the World Fund, and we also put some money in to finish out the Water Endowment Fund that Nick and Jennifer put together, which is just a great visionary thing that they did. And that money is going to be coming back to the district. So, the Rotary Foundation is really about creating an opportunity for us to be those humanitarians and philanthropists that, little kids dream about being someday. So it doesn't matter how much you give, but at some point, sometimes if you have the opportunity, you want to take it. And, it sounds like the Arch Clump Society is like the ultimate thing. But if you get in the Arch Clump Society, you start realizing there's people that, have like 1 diamond, and then people with 2 diamonds, and then people with 6 diamonds. And you start realizing there's a lot of people out there that are working to make this foundation a great place, and they're giving what they can give. And I really encourage us to keep just working in that direction. And the foundation actually superpowers the things that we're able to do with grants. I've seen, the theme for next year is Be a Hero, Human Engaging Rotary Opportunities. And I really believe that. I was there when the school board member came up to us and asked us in Ethiopia, is there anything you can do? He was talking to 5 of us Rotarians to help stop our young women from dying in childbirth. And I mean, honestly, my jaw hit the ground. I'm like, okay, we're here painting a school. We're going to do what? And 5 years later, there's a regional junior hospital serving 30,000 people a year. And that's how it works. It starts out with engaging those opportunities. And I have to say, for every one of you, think about being courageous. Think about the opportunities to engage. If we hadn't engaged in Ethiopia, and I give a lot of credit to a lot of people who just carried that ball, but if we hadn't engaged, that opportunity would have gone by. It was amazing. And it gave me some courage to an opportunity that I saw in Ghana to be able to build a dental clinic, which is being built right now. It's a $160,000 project. I don't think I would have had the courage to start on that path had I not known the resources that are available when one Rotarian, one group of Rotarians decides they want to accomplish something. So those are the kind of things that the foundation can do. Thanks.
Thanks, Noel.
Thanks, Noel. That was phenomenal. And, I think that until you have had an opportunity to hear a program or go on a trip yourself or speak with someone who's done amazing things, the full magnitude of the foundation and what it can do and what those dollars transcend to is hard to even understand. And I know my life was changed forever when my first trip to Ghana. And then from there, I've been on 2 or 3 other trips, and it changes the way you look at humanity. In many ways, it gives you hope that really good things could happen out there. I wanted to also just remind you that on the district website, there is a tab that is labeled Foundation. And in there, you'll find a lot of the resources and a lot of the guides that we talked about today in the meeting. And so if you're looking for some of the pamphlets or donation forms or various resources that the foundation has available for you, you could, and I think Bruce is going to share a screen right now as I'm speaking, and you could find a lot of these things, and we update that all the time. But if you go to that part of the website, you'll find a lot of the resources. There are foundation resources, the foundation committees listed there, and so on. So you'll find a lot of this. And if there's somebody who wasn't able to join us today for this particular session, this also is going to be recorded like all of the district assembly sessions are. And the links for all of these sessions will be up by Monday. So you could use those themselves for programs at your club, or you can refer people who weren't able to attend today to attend any of the district assembly sessions.
I want to add one other thing for all of you on the call today that are working with your clubs to keep your members engaged during the coronavirus crisis, and a lot of you are using Zoom meetings. And we mentioned before, play a video. The Rotary Foundation needs to have heroes like Noel Jackson and people who are able to have the resources and the desire to make huge impacts. But it also needs people who are willing to give $100 a year, or a cup of coffee a week, or however you want to portray it. But a lot of those people don't understand what it's all about. They don't see the kind of programs that Noel talked about. And these Zoom meetings are ideal opportunities. Invite Noel to come on and spend 5 minutes just showing a few slides from his Ethiopia trip. Invite somebody else, invite Bill Jasmine, who's been to Southeast Asia, to talk about his experiences there and his travel. I mean, we can bring people in now. Before, Noel would have had to have driven an hour and gone across the border. Now he can just log in from his living room or bedroom or wherever the heck he is right now and tell you about what he has done. And it's really simple, and it can enhance your meeting, and it brings the foundation alive. It's what Sue talked about a little while ago about not talking about give, and we need your money, but talk about all the things that the foundation has done. And then if you want to help continue those great things, here's how you can do that. That's a simple way to do it.
So just going to say, any final questions for Bruce or I or Kevin, because we want to end on time so people can go on to the next session. I believe the next session is public image, and that is starting next. Yes, Noel?
Yeah, so I just want to round up here a little bit. This year has not been going exactly as it's planned. We've had to make a lot of adjustments along the way. Our assembly work here has been amazing. And I really want to give a lot of credit to the district trainer, Rick Caron, sometimes called my side Rick. And then what I call the pillars. As I'm moving into this year, assuming the role of district governor, I'm only there because there's people holding me up. I'm calling them my pillars, and they're just amazing people that come along. They're there to make sure that our district is as strong and moving forward the way it is. And of course, I don't even have to say it, but Bruce and Sue are two of those amazing pillars. Bill Jasmine, the work he's doing with grants. I mean, I can go on and on. I see Russ Jones out there. He's doing all the work with grants. There's so many people, pillars, and we've got an amazing district, and these assembly programs have been fantastic, and I'm so proud of what we're doing. I mean, a couple weeks ago we thought, wow, is Rotary all going dark? And you know what? It's not, man. We've got a core of people that are just going to do phenomenal work this year. We're going to have a great year, and trust me, service, friendship, diversity, leadership, integrity, all of those guiding principles are going to get us through this year. And we're going to be so proud of ourselves. And we're all going to meet at my summer home behind me here a year from now. So sign up for the district conference. We're calling it the Grand Experience. And we're going to have a great time and a great year. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel, very much. And just a quick plug, this year for John, we are doing a virtual district conference, June 11th and 12th. Look at the district website for details. Thanks so much for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for having our back and for being the man with all the knowledge. See you all. Have a nice Memorial
Public
Day
Images
weekend.
next. Check the website link, and Kim Spiro is doing that one.
See you
Thanks, Sue.
guys. Bye.